Everyone, welcome very much to our event, RES UK WEN, Inspiring Women in Economics, but not just women, everyone here in the room, hopefully. So I'm going to hand over to our head of department, Sambit, who's going to give, well, let's start with Almudena. Can you hear me, Almudena? Who will give a short introduction, followed by Sambit, who will also give an introduction to the event. Thank you.
Shall I start? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, you can start.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Almudena Sevilla, and I'm a professor of economics and social policy at LSE. And I'm also the chair of the Royal Economic Society UK Women in Economics Network. Let me start by thanking all of you who are here today, but of course the University of Sussex for hosting this event, Selma for putting it together, and Maria Psyllou from the UK WEN, who is the lead on the Inspire initiative. She's done a great job putting all this together. So I think I have 5 minutes, and I just want to give you a very brief introduction as to what UK WEN is about, what are our goals and our initiatives. So as I said, it's part of the Royal Economic Society, and our mission is to support career development of UK-based women in economics across the pipelines. So we set up the network a little bit over a year, and we've been really successful with events like this that have been oversubscribed in the last past year. So what we do is to bring communities of economists together. We advocate for economics. We develop the next generation of economists, and the ultimate goal is to improve diversity, inclusion, and integrity in the profession, and that is well aligned with the Royal Economic Society's new strategic plan. So here today, this is part of the Inspire initiative. We have, so the network has 4 different initiatives, and the Inspire initiatives and events like this is one of them. And this is led by Maria Psyllou, as I was saying. It's been really successful. We've had several events at Edinburgh, LSE, Cardiff, the Office of Budget Responsibility, the OBR, City University. It's already reached hundreds of young economists like yourself. The events have been oversubscribed. And the idea is really to inspire the next generation of economists to stay in the profession. So after you graduate, you continue to work as an economist and to showcase, and we do that by showcasing really the wide diversity of different jobs that economists can do, and the wide diversity of interests that economists have. So let me just finish just by saying what or how you can get involved. So we have a newsletter, and we're quite active on social media. So make sure that you sign up to the newsletter. There are a lot of opportunities to engage with the network. So there are other initiatives like the network initiative. So we have an annual event where a lot of economists get together. We have the Careers Network event, part of the support initiative. So some of you may be interested in attending some of those. And we also have the Action Initiative, where we provide support to young economists or junior economists, even senior economists who want to bring change to their departments, to their places of work around a particular aspect. So we have something called the Action Peer Learning Sets, and you can be trained to put together a group of individuals to change things around diversity that you may be interested in. So we give you the tools to do that. So it's a bottom-up approach to change things. And well, we also launched the UK WEN champion. So this is for our institutional backers. So if we already have the University of Essex as the UK WEN champion, and this is a way of supporting all our activities. So if you like this event, then you can ask your department at Sussex to become our champions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Almudena. I'm guessing I'm audible. Yeah. All right. So, good evening, distinguished panelists, guests, colleagues, and dear students. Welcome to University of Sussex. So, my name is Sambit Bhattacharyya. I'm the head of department of economics. And I'm also a professor of economics. So University of Sussex is delighted and honoured to host this Royal Economic Society UK Women in Economics Network event, exploring economics, career pathways and insights, inspirational talks for future economists. So let me emphasize the obvious. Broad-based sustainable economic growth is not possible without women's economic and financial empowerment and workforce participation. Despite large academic literature evidencing this and significant policy efforts, progress remains slow. IMF, if I go by IMF data, IMF documents that only 42% of working age women are active in the workforce, as opposed to 72% of men. So situation within the profession of economics is not very encouraging either, even though significant progress has been made, especially in the private sector and also civil service. Academia remains, the laggard in this respect. So this event, featuring inspirational talks from role models, is aimed to inspire students of economics and expose them to a wide range of high-quality opportunities available in the private sector, government, and academia. So you will listen to role models from a wide range of sectors. So we have Hannah Slaughter from the Resolution Foundation. We have Cristina Rosemberg from Technopolis UK, and we have Brenda Dorpalen of Environment Agency, and our own Selma Walther will talk about the academic job market, and Selma from University of Birmingham. So I'm certain that their experience will inspire you and the next generation of economists to take up economics and ensure a bright future for the profession. A future that is diverse and replete with excellent opportunities for our graduates. So let me welcome you all again on behalf of the University of Sussex and hand over the floor to Hannah Slaughter of the Resolution Foundation.
Thanks everyone for bearing with us. We've got the tech sorted. My name is Hannah. I'm a senior economist at the Resolution Foundation. I will explain what that is as we go through the talk. But I'm here to talk about my job now and jobs I've done in the past and share my experiences in the hopes that it gets some people a bit more interested in the different things that an economist can do. So just to give you a very quick overview of my career so far and where I've been in the past. So I studied economics at the University of Bristol. I did a course called Economics with Study in Continental Europe, which basically just involved a year abroad, which was very fun. So when I was doing that, I actually didn't really know what I wanted to do with my career as an economist. I didn't know that you could really be an economist. I was interested in economics and that's why I was studying it, but I didn't know very much about what was out there. Fortunately, thanks to some great kind of advisors and tutors at university, I got to know a bit more about what sort of things were out there, and I did an internship the summer before my final year of uni in the Government Economic Service, a summer placement in the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, where I kind of got to know a bit more about what the civil service can offer. And then when I graduated, I moved into the civil service properly. I started out at the Office for National Statistics, directly entering that, and then while I was there, moved on to the FASTRI, which some of you might have heard of. It's quite a large development graduate programme, but there were kind of other options there too. Once I was on the FASTRI, I moved around to a couple of different government departments. So I worked at the Cabinet Office, and I'll kind of explain a bit more about what I did there in a moment. Then I moved into the Department for Business, where I was promoted to being an economic advisor. And then in 2019, I moved to a think tank called the Resolution Foundation, which is where I still am today. I've progressed a bit since I started there, but 5 years in, I'm still going strong. And yeah, after that, who knows? But I will talk through a bit of those in a bit more detail. So firstly, my experience of working in the public sector, and it's worth saying from the outset that there are a huge number of different jobs that you can do in the public sector. I tried out 3 different departments. There are many others and other kind of non-civil service bits of the public sector as well, but just to give you a bit of an idea of what it actually means to be an economist in government day to day. So what might a typical day in my job have looked like? So at the Office for National Statistics, my first job, there was a lot of data analysis. I was analysing the big data sets that the ONS collects and publishes that inform the statistics, that things like GDP, unemployment rates, and getting to know my way around those. I gained a lot of experience in using statistical software there, which was very useful as it turns out. I did bits of bespoke analysis for different government departments. So someone from the Department of Transport might get in touch and ask for a bit of data analysis on something, and I would do some stats for them. So quite a range of stuff. And then the other big kind of thing that I wanted to highlight about that job in particular, and actually other teams that I've been in since, is the opportunity to kind of learn from other economists out there. Civil service is particularly good at that, having teach-ins and seminars, bringing in external speakers even, so kind of continue to learn more about economics as I went into the workforce. My second job was in Cabinet Office, which looked quite different. So the Cabinet Office is kind of the centre of government. There's a lot of kind of coordination and things that don't really fit neatly into a particular department like education or health. But a typical day there might have looked like writing a briefing on health statistics to go to number 10. I did a lot of really interesting qualitative work. So it wasn't just data analysis, it was going out and talking to people and gathering evidence in that way, which was a really interesting thing that I had never thought an economist would do. And that was to kind of understand more about the policy changes, the impact of policy kind of on the ground, so to speak. So among college teachers or health professionals, what their experience of economic policy was, or kind of monitoring trends in employment and the data that's out there. And then finally, another very different job in the Department for Business, where I was doing a lot of attending meetings with teams across government, working in similar policy areas and kind of coordinating that analysis, working very closely with a team of policymakers. In that job, the economist team was a bit separate from the policy team, but worked very closely together. And in that job, I was doing a lot of analysis to inform trade negotiations. This was in 2018-19, so kind of Brexit era. But then I really enjoyed all my time in the civil service, but I was kind of interested in seeing what else was out there. And so I started to explore the world of think tanks. And I'm just going to explain what a think tank is, because I didn't know this for quite a long time. So a think tank is basically an organisation that just does interesting research and analysis and puts together policy proposals, but usually in the private sector or the third sector, like a charity. So the think tank that I work at is called the Resolution Foundation. We are an independent think tank, so we're not political, whereas some think tanks are. We're a charity and we aim to improve living standards for people on low to middle incomes, and we do that by doing a lot of analysis of the impacts of policy, developing our own policy proposals, and putting out our research and hoping to inform the debates. And across the team, we work across a lot of different policy areas, basically anything you can think of that touches people's economic lives, taxes, benefits, housing, wealth, trade and net zero, but in particular I personally work on our labour market research, and that's what I can talk a bit about today. And so what does this look like in practice? So my days often involve making a lot of charts. This one is looking at average weekly earnings and what happened to them up until the financial crisis, and make a lot of charts like this. It's kind of my bread and butter. So there's kind of a lot of using big data sets, and doing interesting analysis there, which is always very interesting. Again, running focus groups and kind of gathering data in other ways other than just numbers. I mean, I'm sure people are studying economics and probably do like numbers, but it's not just numbers. We get to do a bit of everything. So we run focus groups. This is a quote from a focus group I ran a couple of years ago with a worker talking about his experience of being on a 0 hours contract and what that looked like for him in practice. Writing reports, there's lots of reports. Here's a couple of examples of things I've written recently, but I think the really interesting thing is that, in a think tank you get to, you do the analysis, but then you get to write it up and kind of really help communicate what that means, which is part of my job that I really enjoy. Responding to data releases or policy announcements. This is a tweet from, well, now called X, I suppose, but it's, when there's a big data release or policy announcements, we will kind of try and understand what that means and kind of inform the debate around that announcement. So that's a big part of our job too. Attending meetings or roundtables, speaking on panels, doing events like this is always really interesting to kind of, there's lots of different organisations in the public, private and third sectors working on economic policy. So there's lots of opportunities to speak to other organisations. And then the slightly more glamorous part of my job, I'm sorry, this is I'm being very German, but it's from our recruitment brochure, which is speaking to journalists in the media. So kind of talking, getting quoted in the FT is always a bit of a kind of bit of the more glamorous end of the spectrum. But it's basically what I want you to take away from that. It's a very varied job, and being an economist can look like a lot of different things from one day to the next. So it's there's lots of different things that you can do. It's not just about the kind of data analysis, it's not just about the writing, it's about everything coming together in this kind of job. So to give a bit of a reflection, having worked across different sectors, I mean, this is based on my own experience, I'm sure other speakers will have different thoughts, but I think the similarity has been that both have been very, very interesting work, very policy relevant work. It's kind of really clearly relevant to people's day-to-day lives, which I really like. There's great people, I have excellent colleagues, and I've been really lucky with that. And it's kind of got a clear purpose behind it to hopefully improve the people's living standards. Impact looks slightly different. If you're kind of in the civil service, you might be kind of talking directly to ministers who are making the decisions, but if you're in a think tank, your reports get out there in the world and informing the debate in a different way, and you can still have that similar influence, but it happens in a slightly different way through slightly different channels. I think reflections that the civil service was a great place to start my career for me, because I got to move around a lot, gain a wide range of experience, and that was great for me, especially at the start of my career. likewise, the kind of flip side of that is that in a think tank, because it's a smaller organisation, you can do a broader range of things within the same job. So I guess swings and roundabouts there. And yeah, obviously a think tank is more outward facing, a bit more of a public profile in a certain sense. So just finally, given that this is a UK WEN event, just some reflections on being a woman in economics. So I mean, as we've heard already today, economics is very male dominated. It does vary across different parts of the field. It can, I think probably the jobs that I've had, it's not been quite so obvious. It's been a bit more gender balanced, but it's certainly the case that sometimes, I'm still the only woman in a room if I go to certain types of meetings, which is not always the nicest feeling, but kind of getting a bit more used to it. And as I get a bit more senior and gain a bit more confidence, it does get easier. I think it's worth highlighting, and I'm sure this will be a theme of the session today. Women bring a lot of value to economics, in part because we are underrepresented, and that goes for any other underrepresented group. We want the teams thinking about these things, thinking about policy to be as diverse as possible, to bring in the widest possible range of ideas, and especially in policy making, to make sure that the policymakers are as representative as possible as the country as a whole. And I think for me, the difference has been having lots of excellent female managers, mentors, and role models to kind of demonstrate the range of different opportunities that are out there, different types of leadership, and had excellent male colleagues as well. But I think I've been lucky enough to have lots of wonderful women who have inspired me throughout my career. So that's been a kind of real help for me. And then for what it's worth, some advice based on my experience, definitely great that you're here today, thinking, learning about the different kinds of jobs that people can do as an economist, because it certainly took me a while to realise all the different things that were out there and that I could do. And it's kind of great to have found something that I really care about. And there are so many things out there, even if this sort of stuff isn't for you, there's those that might be. Recognizing the unique value that each of us brings to the table, which sounds a bit cheesy, but it's understanding that that all of us have something different to add, and it's as I said, especially kind of given that women are so underrepresented, it's kind of really key to try and correct that as much as we can. And then two final things, which is just finding mentors. I have massively benefited from a whole range of mentors, especially female ones, but not only female ones. Loads of people giving me advice throughout my career that's helped me to kind of get to where I am today and kind of really enjoy my job. And then the final thing is just wider networks can also be hugely valuable, and that sounds kind of very corporate, but networks can be friends, it can be people you're studying with, it can be colleagues from your first job that you then stay in touch with and give each other advice as you go along. That's been something that's been really valuable for me. But I think that's it from me. I'm sure other speakers will add lots to the discussion, but I'm looking forward to the panel at the end.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited to be here today to share a bit about my career. I'm going to be focusing on my experience working in public policy consulting. However, I have had different types of jobs, so I'm going to mention those quickly as well. And I bring some insights from those as well. So happy about me, I'm Peruvian, so you will detect a tone there. That's because I'm a Spanish speaker. And I'm an economist by training, of course, and I have accumulated over 20 years of experience across different types of jobs, but all of them have been related to providing evidence for what I hope is better policy making. I currently am a director at Technopolis UK, which is a public policy consulting that specializes in science, technology, innovation. So a bit of my career journey, which has taken me, I know that sounds grand, which is actually the high blow, but I have moved around So I started my career in Peru. I did my bachelor's in social sciences with major in economics. In Peru, in Latin America, one spends actually 5 years doing a bachelor degree. That's quite exciting because it sounds quite long. It is, but it gives you the opportunity as well to explore many different areas. I did spend a couple of years decided what I wanted to do, and I decided to go for economics, and I spent the next 3 years then specializing in economics. I started working while I was at university at a consulting company that specialized in macroeconomic analysis. I found that quite interesting. I did a lot of data analysis, and that more kind of like overarching view of the economy and how it's working. If you're familiar with Latin American economics and Peruvian, I can tell you that's very exciting because things change constantly. So that was an exciting job to have. And I then started working for a research group called GRADE, not great as you may think, GRADE actually, it's pronounced in Spanish, and that specialist, I think that specializes in economic development. And while working for them, I started then to developing my understanding and knowledge of rural development economics and development economics more generally. I then decided to leave my home country and came to Amsterdam, where I did my master's degree in economics back in 2007. And while doing my master's, I started working for the Amsterdam Institute of International Development. So doing a bit more around international development is still very much on the research side of things. While I was working in the Institute, I started focusing my career on impact evaluation. So the evaluation of programs, doing quasi-experimental analysis, randomized controlled trials, and trying to understand what type of interventions work better and how we can demonstrate whether an intervention is working or not. Then I decided to move to London. I actually came here to do my PhD in economics at UCL. Grabbed all my savings after working for many years in Peru and Amsterdam, and didn't get funding to follow the next year of the PhD. At that point, I thought, war has ended. I should go back to Peru in shame. I couldn't make this work. But I decided to stay in London just to give it a go. Say, well, find a job, have a bit of fun for a year, go back to Peru. I never came back. I started working in London. I started working first for a consulting company that specialized in the creative industries, in culture and the creative industries. And then at that point, I got more in contact with innovation policy. So then I moved to Technopolis, where I'm working right now. And that's a public policy consultant company specialized in science, technology, innovation policy. I started there as a consultant back in 2012, thinking that's going to be a 2-year gig, but I'm now a director of the company, so I have stayed for many years and have progressed through the ranks. So I guess I hope as well this kind of overview shows you that you can have different steps in your career or points in which where you think things haven't worked out for me, and yet you keep progressing, keep on working hard, and finally you find your way through. So this work, mostly at Technopolis, have allowed me, give me the opportunity to work with many countries around the globe. So a lot of the studies I do actually are for local clients that are basically representatives from public organizations and government. So I have worked for obvious reasons in South America. So I have done studies for Peru, Colombia, Chile. I've also done studies for Central America and the Caribbean. I was recently in Barbados doing the evaluation of the complete Caribbean workplaces, just to give an example. And I have also worked for the European Commission. I work a lot for European clients, of course, and also for Norway. Back in the days when I was in Amsterdam, I also did some projects as being a consultant for the World Bank for India. So the nice thing, I think one of the nice things about doing public policy consulting is that it gives you the opportunity to work with many different geographies, many different countries, if you're working for an international organization that has an international scope. So what I like the most about this type of work and what I like the least. So what I have liked the most is that I can use my economic concepts and tools that I learned at uni and throughout my career to support policymakers to make better decisions. And I feel quite passionate about that. And I hope as well that the insights that me and my team provide to policymakers to benefit society at large, even if it is in a very indirect way. I also like the fact that one needs to be constantly pushing to learn new methods. I've never stopped learning, and Now, for instance, with the use of data science, that has become a whole new phase of my career and many of my colleagues, which is to try to understand how we can use data science to inform our clients, but also then to do our evaluations. So we're constantly pushing to learn new things and to apply new methods to build that evidence. I also like working with governments across the globe. I think that's quite exciting and quite interesting. And also the other element I like is that this job actually is many jobs at once if you keep on progressing throughout your career. So you do a lot of the research, so you have a brief from a client and you need to think what is the best way then to address the brief. That will include bringing a lot of quantitative analysis, yes, but there is a lot of qualitative analysis involved as well. So a lot of types of evidence that you need to bring to bear. So you do a little of that, a little kind of research at fast pace. But then as you progress in your career, you also do a bit of business development. So looking after perhaps the commercial side of the company. And you also start then after that looking at people's management. So HR side of things, building teams, nurturing teams, making sure that they have all the tools that they need to do their work well. So 3 jobs at once, which means as well, what I like the least, it's quite an intense job, I'm not going to lie to you. So there is a lot of intensity in it. But if you find that exciting, then that's a place to go. But perhaps the first one actually is the fact that sometimes, many times, politics get in the way of good policy. So even though we do our best and to inform our policymakers and to give them the best evidence possible, you then end up finding in the media, for instance, that they went in a different direction than what the evidence pointed out to us. So that can be a bit disappointing. And as I said, it's a very intense job. But if you like that kind of intensity, then that's the place for you. So in terms of being a woman in economics, because that's an interest for the network, I think there are many things I have learned through my career, and perhaps I also can point out being a woman in economics, but also a foreigner, is that it's important not to be afraid to present your arguments and ideas in any forum. So you build your confidence over time. But I will encourage any of you, and no matter what forum it is, with more your peers or more senior people than you, to present your ideas. You may have to repeat yourself. Keep on repeating yourself and keep pointing your points across, even if you feel that you're being shut down or listened to. You just put yourself in front of your colleagues and your peers. Present your arguments. You have to sustain them, of course. It's not just about opinions. It's about having well-presented arguments. And keep on insisting that you need to be heard. So earn your place at the table like that. Then I think it's also important to make a conscious decision of what type of work you want to do. It's okay to want a more relaxed type of career that allows you for a very good work-life balance. But I think it's okay as well to be ambitious if that's what you want to do, and then to pursue that type of careers as well. I think perhaps some of you may agree with me that many times the word ambitious is leveraged at women as a criticism rather than as a compliment. And I would just want to kind of like share that you can own it, basically, if that's what you want to do. But also that is completely okay as well to look for other career paths that allow you then to manage that work-life balance. And whatever you decide to do, whatever path you decide to take, but always do it with kindness and consideration of others, mostly if you're in a position of leadership. And then to finalize, I wanted to share 3 economic concepts that have really helped me throughout my career. And I'm amazed almost that at various points of my career, the decisions I have to take, sometimes even personally, but just professionally, they have stayed with me. The first one is that every decision you take has trade-offs, and that comes with an associated opportunity cost. So bearing this in mind may help you to take decisions, but also to take risks. Because then you will find out there is no perfect decision, the lucid first decision will not be there, you will always have to leave something behind, and you need to make a conscious decision. So that's one, and believe me, it can have come back to me at many points in my career. The other one is to understand the intrinsic and extrinsic incentives of the different stakeholders with whom you're going to be liaising. What excites people? What are their fears? And that's an important thing to consider at all levels, when you're talking to peers, when you're talking to colleagues, when you're talking to more senior people than you. But also if you work in this type of jobs like public policy consulting, understanding the fears and demands of what will be your clients. So those public sector organizations, what they need, what the evidence that you're showing to them could go against perhaps what they have planned. How do you manage that? So taking into account those incentives are quite important. And then if you're in a position of leadership going forward, understanding that for the teams that you will get to manage or be part of is also quite powerful. And then be aware of cognitive biases. So we have learned from behavioral economics that all of us, human beings, we tend to exert some cognitive biases. So we'll have perhaps availability biases. What happened more recently is what you think will happen next. Perhaps this tendency that we have to support the most popular opinion and suddenly be in agreement with that. Or perhaps as human beings, sometimes the reluctance to change our beliefs, even if the information has been put forward to us that contradicts those. We all have cognitive biases, and I think it's super important and super helpful to keep those cognitive biases in check. And time to time, just ask yourself if you're following a decision because you are falling into one of those categories, and just take that into account. And that's it for me. I'm looking forward to questions in the panel.
Thanks very much, Hannah and Cristina. We have a 15-minute networking break now, so please feel free to come introduce yourselves to our speakers, ask them any questions you might have. That's what they're there for. We'll resume at 6 o'clock with 2 more talks and then an opportunity for you to ask questions to the panel.
Hello everyone, I'm Brenda Dorpalen, Principal Economist at the Environment Agency. And I'm very happy to be here. When I was invited, I thought, okay, this is great because when I was doing my undergraduate degree, I was very interested in gender inequalities from a theoretical point of view. And I thought, okay, this is the chance to approach them from a practical point of view and engage in this discussion. So I'm very happy to be here today. And I would like to start with, I think, the main idea I would like to convey, and that is that more than choosing or having a dream job that I think we all have when we start the economics degree, an idea of where we would like to go, it's better to have a framework that shapes your decisions. And with this, I'm not like questioning the idea of having a dream job. It's of course great, and it motivates you, and it leads you to persuade more and be ambitious. But it can also be a source of disappointment, because sometimes the dream job doesn't come true, or it can happen that when it comes true, you realize that it's not what you expected. And also, even if you get it, it's better to have something that motivates you further. So it's better that it's not something predefined, but that it evolves over time. So what I'm trying to say is that it's better to be curious and be open-minded and try different possibilities when most importantly when you start your first jobs, to see what you like and what you don't like, instead of having like a preconception of what you want to do, because sometimes what we think is the practical job, it is not what it ends being, and other activities or other jobs that you thought you were not interested, they end being very interesting. So I wanted to like reflect this in my own experience. So as I was saying, when I was in a graduate degree, I did a lot of gender economics about inequalities. My undergraduate thesis was about reducing the wage gap and how that impacts on economic growth through different perspectives, considering productive structures, considering different gender systems. In my postgraduate degree, I studied the causes behind gender inequalities in innovation. I got a one-year scholarship to do research on gender inequalities, particularly in salaries and how the minimum wage policy impacts on the gender wage gap and the gender unemployment gap in Argentina, considering different regions. So when I saw this ad about like a gender and macroeconomics conference in New York, and the fact that there was funding to present for young scholars, I thought, okay, this is great. I will probably never get it, but I will apply. And I applied and I got it. And I'm originally from Argentina, and it was great experience. Imagine I was being paid going from Argentina to New York to present my work. And I was meeting all these great economists. I was studying at university there, and I was being able to present my work. And so I was really enthusiastic about gender inequalities. I said, okay, I want to do this. This is my dream job. This is what I want to do. And I haven't done gender inequalities. I haven't done gender economics or feminist economics in my jobs, which doesn't mean that I haven't done jobs that are connected in some way. I will say how they are connected later on. But yeah, I worked in many different types of organizations, in many different topics and in many different countries. So my first job was in Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean in United Nations in Argentina. So, well, this is an international organization, and here the connection was development. I think the connection in all of these different types of jobs was sustainable and inclusive development and evidence-led work. So in this case, I don't know if you know, but there is a school of thought, Latin American structuralism. One of the founders is Previt, and Previt is the founder of the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. And his main argument is that in a way, inequality or underdevelopment or the developing countries are in this situation because of the unequal terms of trade with developed economies. And this thought permeates the Economic Commission. So all the work I was doing there was related to this, analyzing and forecasting different macroeconomic variables, but also doing literature reviews and analysis connected to this way of approaching problems and this way of approaching development. Well, I talked already a little bit about my research on gender inequalities, but that was the only year I did that. Then I worked in a bank, in Superviel Bank. I was in the research department in the finance team. And there I was also doing macroeconomic forecasting and research, but from a different approach, because here the idea was to advise the finance team about how we expected the macroeconomy to evolve and to suggest them how they should approach their investments from the macroeconomic side, or how we saw that the economy was going to be evolving. So, well, here I had one of my first experiences with like the practical side or the gender side of being a woman in a bank, because basically the team was 30 people and we were like 3 women in total. And every 2 weeks we had to present to the finance team like the topic we were like researching and our advice, and each of us had like one topic. And I remember standing there in front of all a very male audience, and it was a bit challenging because I was a very recent graduate, so it was challenging for me. And I guess this was like the more male-dominated experience I had. Like banks are, or in the case of Argentina, they're very male-dominated in a way. So then I worked in frontier economics. Frontier economics, it's a consultancy, I was working in the Madrid office. And well, the breadth of projects was extensive. They were about energy and telecommunications. And again, there was like the development side. So I contributed to this project on how artificial intelligence contributes to meet or leads to sustainable development goals in Latin American and Caribbean countries. So again, the development side was there. And in historic England, that was when I moved here in the UK, I gained experience on understanding another dimension of development, that is how culture can contribute to development. And this is usually a topic that is not so like approached at university, the role of culture or the most intangible side. And it was very interesting seeing this dimension. So what I'm trying to suggest is that sometimes as we progress in our career, we start understanding different dimensions of a problem or a topic that we didn't see at the beginning. And as I was saying, in this case, I, as senior economist at Historic England, I was producing evidence on how heritage contributes to sustainable and inclusive development. So in the case of heritage, usually it leads to creative people to locate in nearby areas. And usually these people are the drivers of innovation, and which is a fundamental driver of source of economic growth. Also, reducing inequalities in heritage is connected to the inclusion of different local communities, which is also positive for the inclusive development. And the sustainability side is related to, well, refurbishing historic buildings implies using the embodied carbon. Sorry, okay. So again, I was like seeing different dimensions of the same topic of development. And currently I'm working at the Environment Agency on environmental economics. I'm leading a team, an economic team working on regulations and how we can, in a way, incentivize more compliance with regulations. And again, here is balancing the trade-off between economic growth, sustainability, and sustainable development is a very important topic in my day-to-day job. So I wanted also to make reference a little bit to the gender side. So in a way, I was once talking with an economist that I really appreciate. And he told me that in a way, women earn less, and it is justified because we are naturally prone to raise the children, and that's like a good division of the labor within a couple. And I was thinking, okay, it's not natural, it's something that we create, it's socially or culturally developed. And I wanted to make reference to this book that was published by Claudia Goldán, that won the Nobel Prize in Economics last year, where she says that in the couples, usually there's like a division of labor in a way, or the choice of jobs, where men usually go to the greedy jobs that they are on call for their jobs all the time, and women would go for the more flexible jobs that they are on call for family most of the time. But she questions this idea that this is natural, and she goes to she shows in the case of the pharmaceutical sector how this changed, and it went from being like a job that was being on call for the job all the time to not being not to be on call all the time for the job. So these things are not natural, you can change them, and as economists and as women economists, we need to be confident and think that these are not natural things, and that we can also shape what happens with our day-to-day work. So I would like to finish with the idea that it's important to be curious, that career pathways are not a straight progression into this dream job, or like you will be discovering, you will be realizing about it, and it's important to go through different possibilities, explore them and see if you like them or not. It's important always to be curious, do the most of networking opportunities, try to talk with many economists as possible, because we do many different things. Economics for me is more like a way of approaching problems and trying to solve them rather than a specialization in something specific. So you may find economists doing many different things, and that they have been changing what they have been doing all over their career. Well, read as much as possible, like stay on top of the literature and the state of what is being published all the time, because sometimes even if you are not working on something, there's a lot of cross-pollination, so you may use something that you have read on, I don't know, health economics in something that is related to environmental economics. So that's very useful. In my case, it applies a lot. I do a lot of intangible economics, or what valuation of goods and services that are not traded in the market. So any area that is connected to that may help my work. And there are many kinds of methodologies that, for example, have been developed for health, and that then they have been applied in environments, and then from the environments to, for example, culture. And so sometimes what it seems that is not connected, it is connected. And be curious, ask as many questions as possible. It's important to be open-minded, learn. And I would like to finish with the idea that sometimes we are focusing on one piece of the puzzle, but we are not really knowing how that puzzle will turn. And it's important that sometimes we are worried about that piece, but at the end of the day, when we have the overall picture, everything makes sense. So thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. And first of all, I will start with thank you so much, Selma and her team, for all the help and support for organizing this event. It's great to see many of you here today to learn about careers in economics and getting to know the idea of the diverse and broad range economics area has. So let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Maria Psyllou. I'm an assistant professor in economics at the University of Birmingham, and I'm also the UK When Inspire Lead, which aims to inspire and encourage female students that are studying economics to pursue a career in economics. And also we expanded last month, and we're also encouraging and empowering early career economists to advance in the roles. So today I'm going to talk about careers in academia, and I'm going to start that I'm not a typical economist. So I will tell you my story and how I ended up being an economist. So my background, I did my first degree in mathematical statistics in my home country. I'm originally from Cyprus. And because I always like numbers, problem solving, decision making. When I finished my first degree, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I always liked teaching, but also I was taking banking. I wanted to see other sectors. And for a year, I got a job as a survey researcher and data analysis. And then I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I decided that I wanted to come to the UK to do master's degree. And this is when I wanted to find an area to combine my mathematical skills with a new area, which I was always interested to find out, what is banking. So I came to the UK, I studied the MSc Banking Finance at the University of Leicester, and this is the first time that I came across economics in my life, which is, I mean, of course I came across before, but I mean as a subject. So banking finance was in business in the economics and finance school in the University of Leicester. And I had common modules with students that they were studying at that time MSc economics. So I was studying with them, I made friends, we were working together in the modules that we had in common. And I was explaining to them the mathematical content of the modules that require, and they were explaining to me the economic concept that I was missing out. I didn't know, I had to study more and find out. So this is when I realized that economics is a fascinating area. I wanted to find out more about it, investigate it more, not just find out what the modules require in the master's degree, but how can I study more and understand what they know and a bit further and study more in depth. And then I applied, this is when the idea got in my mind that I want to study economics in a further degree, and I studied PhD economics. I applied at the University of Leicester. I got a scholarship, which allowed me to be a teaching assistant at that time and I always liked teaching, so I pursued teaching, but also had the opportunity to learn, find out what economics is, the area that I was interested, and discover more in depth and research, which is something that I really am passionate about. And when I entered University of Birmingham, I was doing part-time my PGC in order to be able to be a better educator and develop more innovative practice in the classroom. So this is all about me and my background. So my academic journey, my first job when I completed my PhD at the University of Leicester. I got my first job at Queen Mary University of London as a teaching associate. There I had the opportunity to teach various modules, mostly quantitative, undergraduate and postgraduate modules. And I was also a supervisor for MSc dissertations. Then I got a job at the University of Birmingham, which is my current job. I'm assistant professor at the University of Birmingham for 4.5 years now. And I'm on a teaching focus position. I will explain in the next slide the range of areas that careers in academia. And I've got a variety of roles. So what I do every day in the classroom or in my department as an academic, many things, the answer. I teach a lot, a variety of modules, quantitative mostly. I'm also doing research, and most importantly, the last few years I do pedagogical research and trying to find innovative techniques, approaches in the classroom to engage students. I like when I go to the lecture and find ideas to make students more engaged and see the enthusiasm in the classroom. And this is how I recently, last year, I developed an escape room game in one of my modules, and I'm also using technology, AI, and doing various exercises to keep students engaged. Another thing, I'm a tutor, supporting students, I'm a supervisor, and I'm also doing variety of external roles, which are voluntarily, but I really love because I'm not only passionate about teaching, but also I want to develop my leadership skills. I'm happy that I am part of the Royal Economic Society, UK Women Economics Network, as a woman in a male-dominated area in mathematics first, then entering economics again, male-dominated. I realized that I want to help more women to get into economics first, study economics, and also with the this initiative to pursue, to encourage students, female students to pursue a career in economics. Not only female students, but also students from disadvantaged backgrounds, as in economics. We have underrepresentation of female students, but also from other disadvantaged backgrounds. In the meantime, I also I organize and lead various outreach initiatives targeting mostly women, because it's my focus, but also I go to other schools and go for disadvantaged students. I go to schools where they don't teach A-level economics, so that I give them an overview what economics is, the diverse area and broad topics that we have in economics. I'm also a Discovery Economics Academic Champion and co-organizer of seminars. So the idea is that economics is a very broad area. You can study economics and cover a lot of areas that are important. And why, on the first place, I got interested in economics is because I realized it's in everyday life, in news, in radio, decisions that are important about education, what job are you going to follow, also about climate change. So everywhere is economics. And the most important thing is that we need more women in economics because we need women to influence and the policies that are concerned regarding education. We want equality in education, healthcare systems, inequality, and so on. So why choose a career in academia? And if some of you are thinking, I know it's a bit early, but if you want to follow masters and then do a PhD economics, why career in academia is interesting? Is first of all, it's fulfilling as an educator, not only about the knowledge, but also having the day-to-day interaction with students is something that I really enjoy. Supporting students in their journeys, in their studies, discussing with them, and also the freedom to explore research areas and topics that we are interested in. You can start to have an idea, research area, expertise, but also nobody prevents us to go to and write a paper in another discipline area and so on. So this is something that I enjoy because we have opportunity to research anything that we like. And of course, it's a job that it requires a lifelong learning because there are so many things that we're learning every day with these changes in pedagogies and technological changes and so on. And there are 3 pathways, or most of the universities, they have various, those the common. There are research-focused positions where most academics are focusing on the research. There are teaching-focused positions, mostly focusing more teaching. And also the teaching-focused, usually they also include leadership and administrative roles. So as an academic, not only you can be involved in teaching and research, but also you can develop strong leadership skills, which are important and essential for professional growth. So some things that are important, what skills you will need to succeed in academia and what qualities are important. Teaching and mentoring, important for academia, research as well, research skills to be able to develop very good quality papers, adaptability in every changes, technological changes, pedagogical changes, analytical thinking, communication with the peers, colleagues, class students, teamwork and interdisciplinary collaboration is something that as academics, we not only work with colleagues from economics, but also across business school and all other schools to develop interdisciplinary collaboration and see and research a topic from different perspectives and angles. So to be an academic, it's important to have passion for learning and for teaching as well, leadership and initiative to be able to get there and initiate things you have in mind and be curious to learn more. Inclusivity is important in this profession because we want to be able to teach something that makes sense for all the backgrounds of the students we have. We have different backgrounds, different ethnicities, to be inclusive and cover all the diverse of our students. Integrity and ethics, to be able to have to be fair in assessments, to develop integrity among the students, persistence and resilience, to be able to manage the challenges, to navigate all the challenges, and time management, of course, because there are so many responsibilities and things that you can do as an academic, and you have to be able to prioritize and see what your passions and what you like most to pursue. So what challenges I face or as an academic and then rewards to be an academic? So what I face is when I joined the University of Birmingham, I was a few months before COVID, therefore I had the challenge to be early career lecturer and had to face also the unknown that I had how to respond in COVID demands and how to, most importantly, engage the students. And this is where I got my interest to be able to, I thought I want to develop games in classroom, other techniques to be able to engage the students. Work-life balance is a big thing as if you are doing many things, sometimes you forget to rest. This is something we all need to remember. And another thing is technological adaptation. Now with the AI, we can see that there are so many changes in policies in every institution and differences we can see across. And we have to be patient and also learn how to use AI first ourselves in order to be able to teach and navigate the challenges and also advise students. And I found academia rewarding because the research that we are doing have a big impact on the society. Autonomy in research, so nobody tells you, of course you have deadlines, but any area you want to try and see if you like, you can go and do it. Networking, collaboration, we go to many events, conferences, seminars, meetings, which are important to be able to meet other economies, learn from each other, and collaborate and create projects together. Contribute to education, which is very important for the society, and shape the future generation and future leaders. And of course, the other thing, that flexibility, while also you can say it's contradictory to work-life balance, sometimes flexibility is good because if one day you don't teach and you want to start working at the noon, you can do that, and you finish midnight, it's up to you. I'm not recommending, just saying that you have this flexibility. So I think being flexible, especially in the summertime when we don't teach, we also develop more projects during those months. So some tips to conclude is that what I advise students, all the students or the represented women and everyone is, first of all, attend seminar workshops and seminars if you can. You can meet other classmates, other economists, talk with them, believe in yourself and what you want to do. Sometimes you may not be sure what you want to do, but everyone's been there. We didn't know what we wanted to do, but then life is there and there are choices. So don't be scared to follow your dreams. Pursue internships because this is where you get an experience, a short experience in work, and all research opportunities. You, as students, sometimes you have research. You can be a research assistant, opportunities for some other professors, and then you can learn from them and see how it is to be a researcher if you like to do research. Seek mentorship and guidance. Having mentors, strong mentors, and female mentors as well is important to guide you to the difficulties. So concluding, I wanted to say that being an academic, I find it very exciting. I love working with students, teaching, develop new practices, and also being involved and help the future generation and potentially narrow the gap of the female underrepresentation in economics. There is a social aspect and purpose and diverse opportunity roles to be an academic. You can work with other academics from various other disciplines, and of course, the lifelong learning, which is a very plus point for me because it's always nice to learn every day, every week, something new. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Brenda and Maria. So now I'd like to ask the speakers to come forward. We're going to open the panel for any questions you might have. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. There's no such thing as a bad question.
Sorry. Well, I don't need the microphone.
No, you're shouting.
It's a lot of pressure, the microphone. I've got a couple of questions. I'm going to start with a more general one. I was just wondering what the split was between independent work and collaborative work for all of your different disciplines.
Sorry, just to be clear to the question, you mean in the academia, how many
No, I mean the split between the work that you do in the, I mean, for academia, I guess it's different.
Okay. At the moment, I have a lot of papers collaborative, but maybe I can say 70 collaboration, 30 alone, something like that. At the moment, depends.
For me, yeah, it's a bit of a mix, but I would say even when it's a research project or a paper that I'm working on that is just me, I still get a lot of input from the rest of the team, from senior people, and we have a kind of nice habit of partway through research, we take our researcher team meetings to get everyone's input. So it's, even when it's not formally collaborative, it's still usually quite collaborative.
In my experience, it has been quite independent in general, and in the case, for example, of History in England, when I joined, I was the only economist. Well, my line manager was an economist, but she was working in many other, like leading a team of many different disciplines. And so every now and then there was like an economic discussion. I was the person that was called as the economist of the organization. Now I lead on the economics of regulation, so I basically it's very independent, but I have a team, so like in that sense it's collaborative. So yeah, it's a mix.
And in my case, in public policy consulting, basically each project is a study, and we have a team of between 5 and 10 people working a single study. So it's very collaborative in that way, but we all will have different responsibilities within the team, which means that we may need to go away, do our research or our data analysis, and then come back and feed back into the team. Which means that you're always, going back to your example of the puzzle in the big picture, you're always holding a piece of the puzzle, but then bringing it to the overall picture with the team. And it tends to be a very multidisciplinary team. So you will have economists, but you also have people with all different backgrounds. So that as well, that collaboration with these different disciplines and frameworks of mind is quite exciting as well, interesting.
We have got more questions, but I'd be more willing to.
You're speaking, sorry, I didn't mean it, but you're speaking about the wage conversation that you had. And how is it that you potentially determine, like, how do you kind of navigate those kinds of conversations? I'm sorry.
That's a difficult question. Well, in that case, he was my boss, so I didn't question it much. I was just thinking to myself, I don't agree, but I didn't say what I was thinking. I guess it depends in the situation if you have the margin to say what you think or not. I usually try to say what I think. Maybe I'm more assertive in some cases than others, depending on the situation. But it's true that sometimes you don't have the feeling that you can talk, so that changes I think in each organization, the situation in which you are. So you have to navigate a little bit like the situation and reach if you can speak or not. I think that's important, because sometimes it can be maybe more harmful than positive to like really go and speak. So yeah, I think you need to read the situation. That's what I think. Yeah.
So I'm now in the situation where I have to deal with people and then their appraisals, which is a point in which every year discussions are being made about salaries and bonuses. I can tell you, the women in the team, they don't tend to bring the salary issue to the table. The male colleagues, they do not. So I guess part of my advice will be as well to don't be shy of asking for what you think you deserve, and having those open conversations about salary and promotions and recognitions, because the male counterparts, they tend to do that definitely more than we want to do. So I do encourage you to do, everybody to do that, but I definitely encourage everyone room to do that going forward.
Yes, I want to ask, how difficult do you feel that it was for you, like women and foreign people, like to get a job here in UK?
Well, in my case, I had to accept in a way like lowering my grade with my first job. So in Argentina, I was already like a senior economist, and I had to accept like an internship. Like my first job was an internship, so I think that was like the main challenge. I don't know if that's the experience for everyone, but that was my experience. So that's the difficulty. I mean, you need to accept like some kind of, I don't know if accept, but that was my experience.
That was also my experience. So as I was looking for a job here in the UK, I found it difficult at the beginning. Then I spotted an opportunity for a job, but the job was cancelled because the economic situations of the company have changed. And I approached them to say, well, I can take an internship, so just for 3 months, so I can gain some experience here. So, you need work done. I need the UK experience. So at that point, I was taking at least 1 or 2 steps back in my career, but I thought having that in my CV will help me going forward. And as it happened, once I was there as an intern, they recognized that I was not an intern. I was a consultant already, so they offered me a permanent job 3 months into it. But they basically, when they say, well, I'll show you in 3 months that actually I do have the experience to do more complex work. So you open the door basically. It's a bit ajar, you open the door, you show.
Yes, maybe to add that then it's possible to grow. It's not that you
Yes.
stay in that situation. So it's I guess a good training.
I guess for me, because academia is a bit different, because I think my PhD I went straight to it. I didn't face any challenges of the other speakers. So I was lucky in that sense.
Yeah, I did have some other questions. So for a couple of you, I mean, you gave the impression that your jobs were very statistics centered. And I was just wondering if you learned most of it at university or on the job, because I do a BA, so I don't do only economics, I do it with international development. So I didn't do as many statistics as people who only do economics. So I was just wondering.
I guess in my case, I do use quite a lot of the econometrics that I learned at university, but I also have colleagues who didn't even study economics, that do like politics or maths or lots of different things, and it's very much, I think it was helpful for me to have done that sort of stuff at uni, but equally I'm using this skill in quite a different way, and so that's definitely just as much, a lot more that I've learned on the job than I did at university. But experience.
In my case, I also had to learn in the job about like econometric applications that maybe I didn't have the experience at uni. So for example, I did a choice modeling that is a methodology to value intangibles. So in this case was to value like what is called cultural ecosystem services in a heritage site. And this method involves like doing surveys and then doing some kind of econometric analysis to understand the willingness to pay for some changes in this heritage site. So I haven't learned to do multinomial logics in like in my undergraduate or postgraduate degree, so I have to learn that. But I think if you already have the basis, then it's easy. It's not very difficult. So I wouldn't be afraid in that sense.
I think I learned a lot on the job as well. So there are some, I learned a lot of the econometrics that I use for type of impact evaluation at my master's, but it was only when I got the opportunity to actually apply it for the evaluation of a real program that I think those concepts really landed. And then from that, I've spent the last 10 years improving them, learning a bit more. So you learn a lot on the job. Those initial frameworks were super useful and a good base, but you will learn a lot as you progress in your career.
I just wanted to ask everyone on the panel, with your work as an economist, what's the most frustrating thing about your work and what's the most rewarding part?
The most frustrating part, I think, is the clients actually. So your clients are, well, for its vital piece of evidence, and in my case in public consulting is then the representatives from the government and the public sector. And many times, because they have different incentives and motivations, they may push you in certain directions that you want to go. You have to, it's part also of your job to remain independent and to provide the best most robust evidence, but you may be pushed to show things in a different way, in a different light, to change the narrative. And there is power structure there because they're the client. So you do spend a lot of your time and energy staying strong and trying then to let the evidence speak, basically. And that can be quite frustrating when you are not able to do that. So yeah, I think don't be mine. Oh, but what I like the most, I do like my job. But exciting, the different questions that are put your way. The fact that you have this question, this brief, and then you have 6 months and this amount of resources, come back with the best answer that you can. I find it very exciting.
I find very rewarding the possibility of shaping some conversations. So usually economists are very well seen in an organization. And I'm used to work with many multidisciplinary teams or teams that are not economists, and that I provide them advice from an economic angle and seeing how I shape the decision into a certain in a certain way, or also when I'm given a problem and then I get to a solution and I see how it is applied. That's also very, very rewarding. What is not very rewarding is when, yes, maybe you have an approach or a way of thinking that you think is the best, you have found evidence, but for different reasons you are told not to go into that direction, or maybe sometimes tight deadlines like make you not do exactly what you would wish to do. Yes, that's not so exciting.
I think for me, probably the most rewarding bit is kind of seeing my research have impact, whether that's kind of being picked up in the media or it's just people, it's clearly shaping the debate about policy, just kind of feeling like it's having some kind of impact in the real world is always really nice. In terms of what's most frustrating, I think sometimes, it kind of the flip side of one of the benefits of my job, which is that we get a lot of freedom to kind of do, research interesting things, but then sometimes it's quite hard to then narrow it down. Like, well, there's so many different avenues I could go down and so many different charts I could show, and then you've got to kind of really get really focused, and that can be quite a frustrating process. Think like what's actually the important stuff here. But overall, it's kind of good, it's good to learn to do that.
For me, it's, the most rewarding is when I receive some students' emails or close feedback, or when they see me in person, these little nice words when they say, thank you so much, very supportive and supervisor, or I learned something from your module. I mean, that's it for me, or I enjoy these different game or practice within the class. I think this is what I like to see, the enthusiasm in my students, and the passion to learn, so that they are willing to learn and they want to learn and they like economics. The most frustrating for me, to be honest, is I think academia with the paperwork, we have a lot of paperwork to fill. I think my colleagues here will understand. I could spend my time to do better things than filling forms, and I think this has been changed and will increase more and more the last few years, and I hope this will change and will be reduced. And something else is that being an academic, it's very rewarding to have so many opportunities to be involved with so many initiatives and the impact you can have. And if you're passionate, for example, for me, is to help also girls to study economics and pursue a career. So this is I'm very passionate about. I'm very happy that I can do this in my profession. And just to go back to the previous question, because I didn't respond, being someone who was an economist and then I did a PhD economics, I wouldn't be scared as you don't have the statistical background to go and do whatever you want. I think if you want it very much, you believe yourself, you can do it and you can learn. This is what I did in my PhD. I was learning and trying to catch up with the other economists that they knew. So, and you can do whatever you want as much as if you like it. I think this is the important, is to do what you like.
We have time for one more question. Okay.
I want to ask, and so you need to do all kinds of analyze, like telling the policymakers about the policies. So I'm wondering, by going ahead of the policies, like going ahead of the good policies, does it help you to make good personal decisions, like some benefits gained from investment?
I'm good at advising others.
I'm not the one making the money.
Well, it's very common that when you are in a having like chatting with people, that because you're an economist, they will ask you, oh, where should I invest? And economists, we do many different things. So for example, I'm not right now working on like financial investment, so I would probably not advising on that. So I think, yes, it depends a lot on what you do as an economist. It's very variable.
Yeah, I would say for me, I'm very much not a macroeconomist. I'm an student of finance. It's not my area, so I would be very bad at advising investments, I think.
Yeah, I've got some background in finance, but still, it's not my expertise at the moment. What I'm doing, so it depends. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everyone for these fantastic questions and for these fantastic answers. I'm just going to put up a thank you slide with evaluation forms. So thank you so much for attending. So this is of course, it's very close to my heart, the work on gender economics. So I'm really happy to see you here. And we hope you've been inspired by the opportunities that are offered by your various economics degrees and also by our fantastic panel. So thank you to Brenda Dorpalen, Cristina Rosemberg, Hannah Walther, and Maria Psyllou. Can we give them a round of applause?